Welcome to The Topic, where we highlight Houston Community College, our students, our programs, and our reach into the community. Today is part of our continuing special topic series called Financial Focus. Every other month, we bring you ideas for working more skillfully with your finances to live your best life, take care of your family, and benefit your community. I'm Daniel Scholl. I'm one of the financial coaches here at HCC. And like many employers, HCC provides ways for employees to save for retirement. And today, we're going to be talking about the options that are available to us, both faculty and staff. We'll also discuss some do's and don'ts, many of which are applicable to anyone who wants to be financially sound in retirement. So feel free to share this with your spouses. Today, I'm joined by HCC Financial Coach Janice Wheelwright-Griffin. Welcome to the show, Janice.
Hi, Dan. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing all right. Thankful that the storm passed us, but definitely keeping our friends over there in Louisiana in, our thoughts today.
Definitely.
So, hey, we're in higher education. We're a little bit different. Our employees are, covered by different kinds of retirement planning than a lot of the, people who are in the private sector. Can you kind of give us an overview of that?
Sure. Well, for most employers that are in the private sector, they're typically covered by a retirement plan considered a 401k plan, or some have different options like 457, other type of retirement tools. Most people in higher education typically have what we call a pension, where the employer contributes as well as the staff contributes for that defined benefit that pays you out a monthly paycheck in your retirement, considered a monthly retirement annuity check.
Okay. But we also have optional plans from that as well, right?
Correct. We often try to consult with individuals and let them know, in addition to the TRS pension, that they should also contribute to additional outside savings, such as other retirement options like a 457 or a 403B or an IRA. So those are other retirement type savings plans that you should definitely contribute to as well.
Okay. And so for a lot of people, I think a lot of people are familiar with the 401k, less familiar with the 403b or 457. Do they pretty much operate the same way?
They pretty much are. The reason for the different letters and the alphabet soup of it all is so that each individual employer has a different type of retirement plan. So typically 403bs and 457s are for state, higher ed, municipalities, and the 401ks are for private sector employers.
Okay, great. And so how does this all relate with Social Security?
Well, with Social Security, typically if you're working with an employer outside in private sector, as you're contributing, that employer withholds Social Security tax. So that Social Security tax goes towards your Social Security's earnings. So when you're able to retire, you have your 401k or other outside contributing factors in terms of retirement plan alongside Social Security. For most states, higher eds, and other municipalities, a lot of times those employers do not contribute to Social Security. So because they don't contribute, it doesn't contribute to your Social Security earnings, meaning you will probably get a reduced benefit, which we call the WEP, the windfall elimination period, or you'll have reduced because you've contributed less, so you receive less.
All right, so let's talk about that a little bit more for a second. Okay, so my wife is a public school librarian. She's with one of the ISDs here in the Houston area. And while she did, work in college and a little bit after college, for the most part, she's contributed to TRS her entire career, right? So she's not really contributed to Social Security. I, on the other hand, have just started in higher ed in the last 5 years. I spent most of my career in the private sector. How do those work together when you've worked in both places?
Well, when you worked in both places, typically what will happen is there is a graduated scale of that reduction for that, what we call the WEP. So what that means is if you work 20 years or less, you're paid out at a reduced rate. For instance, I worked in private sector as well, but I worked 30 years outside in private sector prior to switching to higher ed. So I will receive 100% of my Social Security earnings because I have that 30 years outside of, in terms of contributing to my Social Security. In a marital situation where you're dealing with someone who has what we would consider mixed, because again, you're dealing with the private sector, and as well as the higher ed earnings and Social Security, what would happen is that would not affect either pension because of that, but what it would affect the spousal death benefit in Social Security. Because again, you're dealing with, so it doesn't affect your retirement paycheck, but it would affect should one of you pass away earlier. And you would have to go to Social Security to figure out how those earnings would be affected in terms of spousal benefit, in terms of death of one spouse.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And I'll say, Social Security Administration actually is really great about answering these questions. They're not always the easiest to get on the phone or to make an appointment with, but they really do break all this down for people. Would you agree with that?
I would. And let me also state this as a plug for Social Security. Since the pandemic, their virtual appointments, because they had to be virtual, have really gotten very, very good. Their appointment lag times used to be something like 30, 45 days in terms of setting up an appointment, but they've really beefed up staff. They've gotten really good at conducting virtual appointments. So one of the things I like to say is always check your answers 3 times. Let's go back to those testings in schools. And therefore, I would say make a visit with Social Security in person and then have a virtual appointment and then do the calculation yourself. And they can show you those steps on the computer on how to do those calculations yourself. So if you get that same answer 3 times, you're probably on the right track.
That's great advice. You mentioned something earlier. You talked about an IRA. And we see commercials for that all the time. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, and are they available to an HCC employee?
Absolutely, they are. And all IRA is, it's individual retirement account. So that means that for individuals that either don't have access to retirement planning through their employer or self-employed, or individuals who just want to supplement their employer's retirement planning, you can open up an IRA account. And you can do that through various providers that we have here at HCC, or you can go to your local bank or credit union. There are mutual fund companies that you can go to. You can open up those accounts on your own, and you will have someone who's there who's a licensed professional who will walk you through that process in terms of how to open one up to save for yourself. And you can save for yourself either pre-tax, meaning you put the money in without paying taxes, hoping to, once you withdraw the money, you will pay tax in it. Or you can open up a Roth IRA in which you pay your taxes first, and that money and those earnings grow tax-free. And when you pull it out, you don't pay any taxes.
Yeah. And, taxes can be a big deal. So if people have questions about that, that's really something they're going to want to talk to their tax advisor about, as well as the financial advisor can kind of guide you through which one might be more beneficial for you, putting money in pre-tax or post-tax. Well, Janice, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, why don't we talk about some of the pitfalls that people find when they are retirement planning?
Let's do it.
At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. Open the door to real-world education, where passions become careers. Find out more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
For more than a year, we have kept you informed with more than 500 remote episodes. But now we're back, bigger and better, with more news and more guests. Join us live every weekday at 10 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube, and on HCC TV at noon and 5 p.m. You can watch from anywhere. We go where you go.
Welcome back to the topic, Financial Focus Edition. We're continuing our conversation about retirement planning with HCC Financial Coach Janice Wheelwright-Griffin. Janice, when you talk to people and you say, when would you like to retire? I hear a couple of different answers. One, I'm never going to be able to afford to retire. Or I wanted to retire yesterday. But realistically, how does somebody choose when they should retire? Can you retire too early? Can you retire too late? How do you make those decisions on timing?
The answer to that question is yes to both. You can retire too early as well as you can retire too late. And in regards to too early, that's really primarily a financial decision, in terms of, do I have enough means in order to retire? Do I have the health and strength to work more? Retiring too late. Sometimes individuals have not determined exactly what they want to do in that next chapter. And since work consumes such a big portion of our life, most people think, well, you know what? I've always done this. I'm going to continue to do this because I haven't figured out what else I'm going to do. And so involved in a lot of those factors, some of the other things I like to consider is lifestyle. What type of lifestyle are you currently living? Do you want to live in a smaller home? Do you want to babysit your grandchildren? What is it that you actually want to spend your time, your money, and your energy on? And also, too, a huge consideration of that is health. Sometimes we might want to work longer, but realistically, if we don't have the energy and the strength to work longer, or if we don't have the legacy for good health, it might be a time to consider exactly when to retire. So when trying to decide when to exit depends on so many factors other than money. And that's why I say it makes sense to consult with a bunch of different experts in different arenas to decide how to design the best plan for you.
So I'm going to assume some of those experts you're talking about, talk to your financial planners, talk to your tax advisor, and maybe even consult your doctor, huh?
Absolutely. And also too, not just a physical doctor in terms of your physical health, but also your mental and emotional health. Are you the type of person that receives a lot of social engagement from work and you value that type of work? And what would you replace that with? So it's a lot of planning that out so that not only will you have the money to be successful, but you also want to live a well-being as well as being wealthy in retirement.
No, I think that's really interesting what you're saying about the mental aspect. I have seen couples retire and then get divorced because they've never been forced to spend all their time together, and they found out they really didn't want to. But you know what? We're going to put a pin on that. Maybe that'll be a topic for another show, another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think taking that holistic approach is really important. I want to talk about homes for a second. I feel that's an important step in retirement is to have your home paid off. Let's say you've got that home paid off, right? We see commercials all the time about how to tap into that equity, right? To do your trips, to supplement your retirement income. That could be through like a reverse mortgage or cash out refi. Is that ever a good idea?
Well, it depends. And I say that with a lot of different financial products. And here's the thing. And now and because things are currently changing, I heard recently on an economist report that they're looking at, because of the price of homes. And by the way, the average cost of a home in Houston is upward of $400,000. Okay. So that's just astronomical, right? And so when you're looking at that, what you have to say to yourself, and when I was looking at the economist report, they're saying that they're looking at going to a 40 and 50-year mortgage in the future because of the increase of prices in homes. So for future generations, a paid off mortgage might not be something that might be attainable considering the cost of the home prices. So what I'd like to say is this: they're not necessarily bad products. They're products that don't serve your financial goals. So in some instances, you can do things like pulling out equity in your home. You can do a reverse mortgage. but that isn't a good product for someone who's not financially secure or financially savvy. As you notice, there are always commercials on the TV about how easy that is and what it all entails. Much as you also see, there are also how to sell your extra insurance policies, right? And they're
Right.
coming at different ways because they realize too that so many people are having this financial gap in their retirement and they are looking for different resources. But keep in mind, without the proper advice and the proper financial knowledge, a reverse mortgage or pulling out equity in the home or selling an insurance product might be a great choice for someone and a horrible financial choice for someone else.
So you bring up a good point there, right? Because that's when I get those questions, that's how I can kind of, answer them. I say, well, look, in a very broad, general sense, I'm probably against a reverse mortgage. However, everybody's situation is unique and different, right? And that's why, you go to a doctor, you don't get diagnosed from, we shouldn't get diagnosed from WebMD, right? You shouldn't get diagnosed from this podcast today. You shouldn't get diagnosed from something that you read on the internet. You really do want to talk to professionals so they can look at your situation. But you and I know we are getting overwhelmed with retirement advice and planning advice. People are getting retirement and investment advice from TikTok. They're getting it from Facebook. There's a lot of different ways to get information out there today. How do we evaluate the quality of that advice in terms of, the accuracy and the trustworthiness of their information?
Well, the thing that we have to realize is this, again, because all this information is coming in. And again, what works for one situation might not work in the other. I always say go to trusted sources and then check your sources. And what do I mean by that? If you've been banking in an institution for quite a while and you have a relationship with the bank, that might be a good place to start, or a credit union. Through our employee assistance program, we have a list of financial planners that are listed that someone could actually see at a discounted rate. I also believe in utilizing this different type of advisor called a CFP, and that's a certified financial planner. Now, there's two different types. One sells products and advice, and the other one only offers advice. And what I call the one that offers advice is kind of like getting the second opinion of a doctor, so to speak. So you would take in your whole financial plan, and then what that person would do is they would overlook your plan, take in your particulars and your situation and your desired financial goal, and try to help you determine where the gaps are or what would be the best choice and the best decision for you to make. And realize this too, Dan, in all planning, you need flexibility, because whatever plan you come up with, if life happens to come along, or as the kids say, when life be lifing, you want to make sure you have room in that plan to be adaptable and make those adjustments. And I always say this too, constantly get these financial checkups, just like you do your physical well-being checkups and all that.
Absolutely.
Constantly.
Yeah, once a year, you should take a look at everything. We're going to go ahead and take a quick pause there. But when we come back, Janice, let's talk a little bit about what the next steps are, what happens after you retire.
Perfect.
All right, we'll see you in 60 seconds.
At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. Open the door to real-world education, where passions become careers. Find out more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
And welcome back to the topic, the Financial Focus Edition. And we are continuing our conversation about retirement planning with our HCC Financial Coach, Janice Wheelwright-Griffin. Once you've made the decision to retire, there are some processes that you do have to follow and do things that are right after retirement date is passed. Now, I want to let the audience know we're not going to discuss all aspects of that on how to retire on today's show. In fact, I feel like I should point out that while Janice and I do work for HCC, we do not work for talent engagement. You should check with talent engagement for specific details on how to retire here at HCC. But I do want to talk about some of the specific aspects of that next phase of life. So Janice, once you've retired, are there any specific actions that you need to take to start using the money that you've saved?
Well, yes, I think one of the most important things, and I always say this too, about doing the pre-work. The pre-work meaning check and make sure that you're not in need of that hip surgery or all that good stuff, and get all that stuff done as an employee, because you don't want to have all that stuff done as a retiree. But once you actually retire, you have to be aware of certain things, such as when that first retirement check's going to hit. Everyone is so used to being paid every 2 weeks. So again, they're like, okay, well, I'm going to retire on the 15th, and I'll just, with my paycheck I get on the 30th, you're going to be in a big shock, because again, it takes at least 2 months before you get that first annuity check. So you have to do your paperwork first. And again, check in with talent engagement to find out what that process is and find out how you actually go about that. If you're going to be moving, because many people do move in retirement, if you're going to be making changes to banking and getting all the things switched over, it really is starting a new chapter. So you just have to do everything you can to make sure you're on task so that you have no interruptions in terms of your planning.
Excellent. Now, when you do that, they're going to ask you, how do you want to withdraw your money from your accounts? But there's options, right?
Yes, definitely.
Can you go over the options, and is there one better than the other?
So actual withdrawal. So in some of the state agencies, believe it or not, some people get paid once a month. HCC is one of the few agencies where you get paid every 2 weeks. So some individuals had a hard time not understanding how they get paid, or because HCC get paid every 2 weeks, you may be shocked to know that you'll be paid once a month in your annuity options. And in your annuity options, there are different things to consider, whether or not you're going to have your annuity check continue after your death.
I just want to clarify something. When you're saying annuity, you're talking about TRS, right?
Right. Talking about your pension, which is an annuity.
Right. Let's not confuse people with that today. Yeah.
So when you get your paycheck or your retirement check, you get to decide whether or not if that'll continue in your death. Again, discussing those options with TRS as to how those options should be selected and what's best for you and your family, you should discuss with them so you completely understand what those options mean.
Excellent. And if you and your spouse are going to be taking, Social Security along with TRS, does Social Security work the same way?
It does, except for the difference is you need to file for Social Security about 6 months prior to when you're after you become eligible, before you become eligible. So again, having those pre-conversations as to when, so you'll know when the money comes in. Because think about this, again, you're retiring, you're used to getting paid every 2 weeks. You have to know how much cash you need in reserves. And then you'll have to know when those other deposits will be coming in. When will the pension check hit? When will the Social Security check hit? Is it better in a spousal situation for someone to claim first on the premature at 62? Is it better for someone else to wait until full retirement age, which is either 66 or 67? So again, having all the pre-work done to make those decisions will make retiring that much easier when you know what to expect.
Okay. And that all makes sense to me. Let's say, though, that you are getting both TRS and Social Security, right? Maybe you're in one of those mixed households. You're both retired. What aspects are going to jump up? You mentioned something earlier about the Windfall Elimination Act. Can you kind of talk about how all that works? What's going to happen?
Well, when you go But prior to filing for Social Security, when you go and have those meetings, you can actually tell them, and there's a chart that shows you what those reductions would be. And the reason why you want to know that is because you want to have a good idea of exactly how much you're going to get in that paycheck. And as I stated before, just because one spouse is affected by the windfall elimination doesn't mean the other spouse will, if they've been in a situation to where they have contributed to Social Security the whole time. Now, again, it's based on each other's separate record. That's why one doesn't affect the other one, except in the instance of death. It affects the spousal benefit, but not the retirement Social Security check.
Okay. And again, Social Security, TRS, talent engagement, great resource, I'm assuming, for those kind of questions.
It is, but let me state this, Dan. All TRS will assist you with is your eligibility. They will not instruct you on what options to take and things of that nature. And that's where, again, going back to that certified financial planner or someone else who has an ability to look at your financial plan holistically can help you with those selections of choices.
Excellent. Excellent advice. So now there are some crazy people out there, Janice, who want to keep working. Maybe not, full time, but they want to work a little bit after they retire. Clearly, I'm not one of those people. But is it possible to work at least part-time after retiring from HCC?
It is. It's possible to work regardless of where you work. However, if you retire prior to your full retirement age, which for most of us is 66, 67, you can only earn this year, in the year 2024, up to $19,000 in your part-time gig. If you earn more than that, what happens is you will have to pay a penalty, and you will owe the government $2 for every $1 they paid you out beyond that $19,000 that you earned. So you do not want to make that mistake.
All right. That's excellent news to know. And I would just say, for more information about financial aspects of retirement, again, talk to talent engagement here, talk to your financial team that you have, and you can always let a financial coach know that you'd like to meet with one of us. Janice, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to thank our audience out there for joining us for this Financial Focus episode. To listen to a podcast version of this show, visit hccs.edu/podcasts. For the topic on HCC TV, I'm Daniel Scholl. Enjoy the rest of your day.